the hard place. Like a wind from Goldland he sweeps by, blown far from his homeland in search of glory and honor. We walk in the garden of his turbulence.
All right, movie fans, welcome to the latest edition of the Movie Joust. We got a huge, monster, unbelievable film to talk about this week. Avatar. Fire and ice, fire and water, whatever, fire and ash.
Fire and ash. There's no ice in this movie.
We're going to get to that in a minute. I'm Jason Evans. I will be playing host this week. I'm joined by Jesse Nussman and Josh Sewell. But guys, before we get to Avatar, we're going to talk for a moment about Rob Reiner. The tragic news that happened a couple days ago.
Yeah.
That one of the great filmmakers of our lifetimes, who's also a great actor, a guy who redefined, if not invented, entire genres of movie making.
Yeah.
Was taken from us far too soon. A tragic family story, and we're not going to get into any of that. We're remembering Rob for the things that really made him great and made him so beloved. So Josh, I'll go to you first. I know you just happened to write an article about this. You know, what are your feelings? Yeah, give me the best you got, baby.
So yeah, he is the epitome of that. Being a Nepo baby isn't necessarily a bad thing. You know, like the son of Carl Reiner, who is on his own Hollywood royalty, right? But proves that, yes, I'm sure he had a leg up in the business, but proved that he had the skills, the talent, the chops to make it completely on his own, the career, the decades-long career that he had, starting with like bit parts on TV shows in the 60s, all the way through this year. He was still working when tragedy struck. All the way through that, he sort of blazed his own trail, made far different kind of movies, played far different kind of parts than his dad did. It kind of shows that, like, yeah, everybody, it's great when you get a boost, but it's what you do with that boost that matters. And he went on to revolutionize Hollywood. I just don't think that we speak about him in the same kind of breath as like your Spielbergs, your Scorseses, or some of your big iconic producers, because of the great job he did in the role that got him started back in the 70s with All in the Family. Like when you're known as Meathead for almost a decade, it kind of, for better or worse, kind of pigeonholes you in maybe into, people maybe thinking that you are more of that part than you really are, when he was far more savvy, far more amiable. And it's that good-natured spirit that he had that I think propelled him as far as it did in the business, but also shows why he had the staying power that he did, because, when news broke on Sunday, I was trying to think of a comparison, but it was kind of like when you got the news about, this was not like a Robert Redford thing where you're like, oh man, he was a giant, he'll be missed. This was like when you got the news about Robin Williams, or when you got the news about, I was trying to think of like another iconic person where you're like, oh my gosh, where like, when you hear that a 78-year-old man has died, your first thought isn't like, oh man, he had so much more time left. But when it's the what's surrounding it, you're like, how can a guy who has done so much for so many in Hollywood go out in such a horrific way? But when you look at his resume, his filmography, his directing career, insane. Acting career, insane. He never stopped acting, even when he was doing these films that he made, and he just became like a reliable Hollywood character actor. And I know that we're going to spend most of our time here talking about his directing career, but I think we forget, I think we took him for granted just what a great actor he is. Leonardo DiCaprio's dad in Wolf of Wall Street.
So good in that movie. He's he's the audience to some extent. He's the audience avatar in that movie. He's the guy who gets to walk around and go, what are you doing? You've gone insane.
While
Which is
still
what,
himself being corrupted by it, just a little more
yes.
slowly, right? So it doesn't hit us as hard right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Jesse, go ahead and give me your stuff, and then I'm going to spend 15 or 20 minutes talking about The Princess Bride, which is my favorite film of all time. So, Jesse, you go first.
Yeah, I'm much younger than you guys, so like I don't have like as much of a relationship to Reiner as like an actor. I primarily, I guess, know him as like a filmmaker first, but then like would recognize him if he popped up and stuff. And to me, I think for people around my age in their like 30s, maybe early 40s, something like I'm in my 30s, but like he was sort of emblematic of a kind of mainstream Hollywood movie that was like very popular in the 80s and 90s, of like a sort of like mainstream crowd pleaser, could bounce between different genres. I mean, he's worth going down in the history books, even if some of his
100%.
later movies into the like late 90s and into 2000, like he eventually kind of became sort of like a VOD, like a Hallmark movie sort of guy. But
yeah,
he has
when he
like
fell,
this,
he fell hard. But yeah,
but like you get to do that when you have this like incredible run in like the late 80s and early 90s, where like tell me if I'm forgetting any here, but like it's the run of like, this is Spinal Tap, Princess Bride, Stand By Me, Misery.
I'm going to do it in order.
Hey, yeah.
Let me do it in
let's
order.
go in order.
You
yeah.
do it in order, because I forget what the exact order is.
Right. And I want everyone, as I say these, I want you to note that I graduated from high school in 1985, college 1989. So these films and the dates that they happened hit young Jason Evans.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was
Hard.
getting at, of like this is like squarely in like you guys like coming of age thing, and which is not to say that like I don't love these movies that you're about to mention, but of sort of like he was already canonized of like, oh yeah, he was the guy that like made this sort of like great run of mainstream pop entertainment movies that were like fantasy, were mockumentary, were rom-coms, were thrillers, were courtroom dramas. He kind of was able to jump between everything, and was really good with actors, and was not a very like aggressive filmmaker in terms of his style and aesthetics, but just understood people enough to know like how to put the camera on someone and get a really great performance out of them, and how to play to a crowd of moviegoers.
Yeah, and
right,
not just before Jason reads the list, not just that he was able to bounce between genres, but as Jason reads you this list, he doesn't just bounce between genres, he makes the foundational texts for each genre.
Exactly. It starts 1984. This is Spinal Tap, which invents the mockumentary. Frankly, you wouldn't have The Office if you didn't have Spinal Tap first. 1985, The Sure Thing, which it's entirely possible you guys haven't seen. That film has been like, it's been buried in like, it's a John Cusack film. It's just a great teen comedy.
It was a critical hit. It was a critical hit, made a good bit of money. I think it's just kind of lost to time because of rights issues, and it didn't make the jump to the streaming age. So.
Exactly. 1986, he does Stand By Me, maybe the greatest coming of age film of all time, certainly up there. 1987, The Princess Bride, as I said, that's literally my favorite movie of all time. One of the most quotable, maybe the most quotable movies
a movie
ever.
I probably watched 1,000 times as a kid growing up. Was just like always on TV, and always one of those where it's like, oh, Princess Bride, like that and A Few Good Men were like two of those that my sister and I would just be like, oh, like this is on, let's just like watch 15 minutes of it. You know what I mean?
And I don't know if people have caught this yet, as Jason is reading the movies he has rattled off. That's year after year, 84, 85, 86, 87. These are calendar years apart.
Yeah. And by the way, how good is The Princess Bride? I own 3 copies of it on DVD. I literally have purchased with my hard-earned money a copy of The Princess Bride 3 different times. One of them I bought because the box looked cool. That's how great. That's how great The Princess Bride is.
I just got the Criterion of it during the last sale a couple of months ago.
I've got the box I have of The Princess Bride is written in the special text that if you turn it upside down, it reads The Princess Bride upside down or
Oh, that's cool.
It's like
Aw,
it's
that's
a,
sweet.
one of the best boxes ever. After The Princess Bride, 1989, he takes a year off. Josh, he takes a year off to make When Harry Met Sally.
Oh
Like,
man, what a lazy bomb, you know?
I mean, the great like Hollywood rom-com.
yeah,
Is it
Yeah.
the best
I mean,
Hollywood rom-com?
in the running, certainly.
It
It's on the list.
establishes,
Basically,
like
kickstarts Nora Ephron's career in the movies, and like him and her become like really great partners, and where like he pops up in Sleepless in Seattle.
yeah. So
All right.
you've got When Harry Met Sally and Pretty Woman are a few months apart, and that ushers in this entire new era of rom-coms.
1990, he makes Misery, which I still think is one of the best adaptations of a Stephen King book of all time.
He made
A really.
And speaking he makes two essentially perfect Stephen King adaptations, Stand By Me and Misery.
We're going to get to that, by the way, in a second. I'm going to tell you guys
Yeah.
a story, if you haven't heard, is incredible story. 1992, A Few Good Men. I mean, as good as it gets for courtroom dramas. 1994, he makes a film called North, and then 1995, he makes The American President. But wait, I'm going to get to North in a second. He makes The American President, which I still consider maybe the best, political drama of all time. It's certainly
And
up there.
I want to go that
dress
far, but
for-
it's good. It's good. It's
It's a
definitely
dress
good.
rehearsal for The West Wing. It's
Yeah,
you
exactly.
don't
Yeah.
get The
Aaron
West
Sorkin,
Wing
yeah.
without The American President.
I mean, you
Yeah.
mentioned
100%.
him
All right.
as like a really great adapter of Stephen King, but like you got like but he's one of the better people at like adapting Aaron Sorkin scripts. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? He's better at it than Aaron Sorkin is.
All right. Do you guys know the
100%.
story about North? Do you know this
I
story?
do. Go for it, Jason.
I just know it as like an infamously like I've seen the clip of Siskel and Ebert just like going like nuclear on this movie during their show.
So here's the thing to know about North. A screenwriter had written an adaptation of a film and brought it to Castle Rock, which was Rob Reiner's company. And Rob Reiner read this screenplay and said, I have to direct this movie. This is such a great screenplay, such a great story. I'm going to direct this movie. And the screenwriter said, no, I want to direct it. And Reiner wanted it so badly that he finally relented. He said, fine, I'll let you direct that movie. I'm going to make this other movie North instead. Sliding doors, the movie was The Shawshank Redemption.
Oh.
And Frank Darabont was the writer who wanted to direct it.
I mean, that kind of worked out.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
And but Reiner is a kind enough heart, a good enough producer to understand that even though this was a bad move for him personally, it was a good move for the company. And
Frank Darabont wrote this week and said that when he screened The Shawshank Redemption for Rob Reiner, he's sitting there in the screening room as Rob Reiner is watching it, and he's thinking to himself, this guy's going to kill me because this guy had to make North instead, and North is an absolute disaster, and this is the film he wanted to make, and the lights come up, and Rob Reiner says, you were the perfect person for it.
Well, there's also the other fun North story, and you can find the clip on YouTube. This is from the 2000 roast, the Comedy Central roast of Rob Reiner. And him and Richard Belzer were on stage together. Him and Richard Belzer are good buddies. And Richard Belzer's entire roast was just handing him a piece of paper and saying, read this paragraph. And it's from Roger Ebert's review. And the section he had it that had him read, I got it pulled up. He says, I hated this movie. Hated this movie. Hated it. Hated every simpering, stupid, vacant, audience insulting moment of it. Hated the sensibility that thought anyone would like it. Hated the implied insult to the audience by its belief that anyone would be entertained by it. And the button on him, and it takes forever because the audience keeps laughing. And Reiner ends it with, well, if you read between the lines, it's not that bad. And just brings the house down. And it just shows the dude could take it in stride. I mean, it's easy to take something in stride when you've had the career he has. But yeah, if you take out North, which is kind of like saying, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? But if you take out North, his run starts from This Is Spinal Tap and goes through American President.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
insane.
I mean, even if you take out I mean, no one remembers North. We've probably talked about it more than any human
Right,
has
right,
in history,
exactly.
other than Roger Ebert. But like, yeah, that run is it's one of the great like filmmaking runs in Hollywood history. Like, yeah,
Yeah, and
it's just unreal.
it's yeah, and it is downhill from there for the most part. He sort of bought himself the room to just kind of do what he wants to do, and it's all over the place. He makes Ghosts of Mississippi, which is not the best, but you've got a really good Whoopi Goldberg performance in it. Gets James Woods a Best Supporting Actor nomination. He does a romantic drama that I will be the first to say is not very good. It's called The Story of Us, but it's got some really great performances from Bruce Willis and Michelle Pfeiffer, and they've got some really interesting chemistry together as sort of this married couple whose marriage is falling apart. The less said about Rumor Has It with Jennifer Aniston, the better.
Is that a
His
sequel to
last
The Graduate? Isn't that what I've
It
heard?
is loosely based on The Graduate, but yeah,
Yeah.
his
But then he does
last
the
big.
bucket list.
I was gonna say it was not a critical hit, but it was
I
a
was going to say
huge worldwide smash.
I'm not with you
He
guys
does the
there, but I
bucket.
remember that
No,
being a huge hit and seeing it in
yeah,
theaters.
it's not good, but
I mean,
it is Jack
but it
Nicholson's
invented
penultimate
it invented a
performance.
notion. It invented. I mean, the bucket list is a thing now because of the movie The Bucket List.
Yeah. And then the one that I do want to sort of advocate for was this movie that nobody saw in 2010, and it's called Flipped. And it kind of takes him back to his Stand By Me era. It's a coming of age story, but it is about the first love of this little boy and little girl. And you get it. The first half of the movie is from the little girl's perspective, and then you get the same story from the boy's perspective. And there's some like Rashomon stuff going on, but it's really cute. It's really sweet, and I wish more people would have seen it. But that's the last one that I can really sort of advocate for. Really quickly, and the less said about it, the better. I think from here going forward, any conversation about Reiner's filmography is going to include 2015's Being Charlie, which was the movie he directed from a script by his son Nick about a drug addicted son and his movie star father and their fractured relationship and them trying to get him through this rough time. And he said in interviews that they did this project together to kind of work through some of their own issues. And it just ends up being really, really, really sad and prophetic in hindsight. So I hate that it, it's going to be looked at in that way. But I will say I'm really glad that we got to see Spinal Tap 2 this year. It is not the best movie. It's on HBO Max now. You can check it out. I'm sure that the streaming numbers are going to be through the roof now. But it's nowhere near as good as the first one. I don't think anybody expected it to be. But it is a good hangout movie with a lot of good music and some really good funny bits in it. And I think it's going to be a lot more sort of poignant and melancholy in hindsight. But, I hate that it's his last movie for a number of reasons. But if you got to go out on one, that's a really sweet one to go out on.
Really quick to wrap this conversation up. I already said Princess Bride is my number one Rob Reiner film of all time. Jesse, what's yours?
Probably either When Harry Met Sally or A Few Good Men. It's really hard for me to choose between those two. I'm gonna say
inconceivable.
I'm gonna say A Few Good Men. That's probably the one I've rewatched the most.
Yeah, for me, it would either be A Few Good Men or When Harry Met Sally. Even though I freaking love The Princess Bride, but I will say really quickly, it would do him a disservice to not mention Castle Rock Entertainment, which is his production company.
One of the like juggernaut production companies of the like late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah. Not only does he do all of his own films through there, so almost all the ones we mentioned are through that. I'm just going through and just cherry picking some of these. City Slickers, Honeymoon in Vegas, In the Line of Fire, Malice, Shawshank Redemption, Richard Linklater's Before trilogy.
Ooh.
All of Christopher Guest's movies, Waiting for Guffman, A Mighty Wind. You've all
the films that are a knockoff of Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
The Green Mile, Miss Congeniality,
Mm.
2 weeks notice. We'll pretend like Kangaroo Jack is not there.
Uh,
The Polar Express. Freaking
Uh,
Michael Clayton. Like,
oh,
it's a good movie.
yeah,
Michael Clayton's a good movie.
and and also, if that wasn't enough, you've got this little TV show that I'm not sure if you've heard of it called Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So no,
that was.
we don't get those without Rob Reiner.
I mean, to merely call him a giant doesn't do it justice, and yeah, it just he will be sorely, sorely, sorely missed for a long, long time. All right, guys, I want to move on to actually talking about a movie that is in theaters right now. And Josh, I'm going to kind of hand hosting responsibility over to you because you have not
All right.
yet seen Avatar: Fire and Ash. Jesse
Yes,
and I saw it.
I am going to be seeing it this time tomorrow as we record. So
Yeah. Make sure you drink a lot of coffee beforehand.
No, actually, don't do that because this is like an almost 3.5 hour movie. You're gonna have to pee if you do that.
Right, that's
Ready
true.
to go and dehydrated, if anything.
But if I get up to go to the bathroom, how will I catch up with this profound, complex story?
Oh my
Actually,
God.
that kind of is the thing. You actually might miss a bunch of stuff because there's a lot of plot in this most recent one.
There's too much. I mean, I'll start.
All right, go
I'm
for
going
it.
to say it's a gorgeous, immersive, amazing visual experience that goes on for 3 hours and 15 minutes. It supposedly the film cost $400 million to make. You see why. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense that this is an incredibly expensive movie. You feel like you're in another world. But the story, first of all, there's like 9 different stories going on at the same time. Like I was writing my review today, and usually I do like a brief paragraph, synopsis. Here's basically the setup, and I was like do the setup was going to take me like 6 paragraphs.
Yeah.
And that's just the setup. And I was like, this is just not like I was losing my mind trying to distill down what's going on with each one of these characters. Like, here's where they are at the start of the movie. And
Jason accidentally wrote the novelization of the film while he was trying to sum up what it.
Yeah. And from the start, we just keep on getting sort of deeper and deeper into these plot threads that just aren't super compelling. They're visually interesting, but not narratively interesting. A lot of them are very obvious end in ways that are there's no shocks or surprises at all throughout the entire film. And I just feel like, James Cameron, I'm giving you everything right now. James Cameron said in an interview that I read today with the Hollywood Reporter, he said, I'm not sure if I want to continue doing this, meaning Avatar films. I wish he'd said that after the last one, because I don't think he has more to say about this world. And as a result, we all are sitting here for 3 hours and 15 minutes, struggling to hold our attention and understand what's going on in this gorgeous, immersive world. And James Cameron is such a genius. James Cameron is so good at tapping into the audience, tapping into technology, at making movie-making magic. Terminator 2, Titanic. I mean, we can go on and on. Aliens. Dude, just everything.
I'm a sucker for True Lies. I feel like True Lies doesn't get the credit it deserves. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think he needs to go back to doing something else, because he's now done this for like going on 9 hours, and there's just not anything left for him to say about it. And it's really unfortunate.
What about you, Jesse? Are we going to joust on this one, or are you kind of in the same boat?
I think we're maybe sort of in the same boat, but I'm like, I think I would maybe have some of the same complaints as Jason does, but I nevertheless still had like a pretty good time. Like, I was never bored for that, like over 3 hours that we were in that theater. I think my defense is going to more come from like, I am more of a staunch defender of the Avatar project as a whole. And I will say, like, I did read something today that he mentioned that like this movie and the second one were sort of like there was that story several years ago. I don't know if you guys remember that he like assembled some like giant writers room, and they're like, we need to figure out what they basically like. Movies 2 and 3 was everything that came out of that writers room, and they were like, this is way too much for one movie, so they had to kind of like split it up. That being said, and like I will say, I walked out of Way of Water and I was like, fuck the haters, F Marvel, F DC, F Bob Iger, F Christopher Nolan, F Steven Spielberg. Like James Cameron's the GOAT. Can keep making these movies for the rest of his life. I don't care. I walked out of this one with like, oh, I guess there's not as much meat left on this bone as he thinks. And not as much meat. There are some like, there's a lot of craziness in this movie that I'm not even going to bother trying to explain. Maybe we can have a humorous episode later where one of us attempts to explain the everything mythologically that's going on in this Avatar movie. But
Luck.
yeah, but there's just a lot of stuff in this movie that kind of feels like it's sort of not recycling, but sort of circling back around to images, aspects of this world, set pieces that we have seen in the other movies. And so this one, I would say, is my least favorite. I had a fun time at the movies, and I think like James Cameron is just making blockbusters on a whole other level and just like a totally different stratosphere than everyone else is. But this movie is feeling a little bit of kind of like, oh, wait, I feel like you've kind of done a lot of this stuff already, which is not how I felt about Way of Water. So I had a fun time, but like I'm kind of glad if he's going to kind of move on from stuff, because it maybe seems like we've sort of hit the end of all of his ideas and themes he wants to work through in this world.
There's a major set piece near the end. Jesse, I forget if I leaned over and mentioned it to you while it was happening, or I just thought it to myself. There's a major set piece near the end that basically feels like the exact same set piece as sort of the finale of the second movie.
Yeah.
There's a major plot point that happens in the film that is basically exactly like a major plot point, and frankly, the resolution of the first movie. They're just, like I say, he's run out of things to say about all of this. The whole like,
even with
the planet is going to take on the invading colonizers. Like, we've done that, and now we're doing it again. And
even with the second one, which I have seen, that set piece that I think you're talking about, which is phenomenal. Even while I was watching it, I was of two minds. I was like, this is fantastic. And also, he's doing the second half of Titanic again.
Oh,
yeah,
see, that's the thing that like made me like fists up in the air about the second one, is the second one just seemed to be such a like middle finger loving embrace of all of James Cameron's interests, of just sort of like, I'm just like a gearhead who loves the sea, and I love guns and technology and weird, earnest sci-fi mumbo jumbo stuff. And like, I don't care, y'all, but I'm gonna like embrace it and like do it with more like, you know, immersion and like texture than you've ever seen on screen. This is the one for me that it just sort of like hit a little bit of a wall of being like, all right, like there's some cool ideas here in this movie to like give you a hint, Josh. Like there's the idea of like, what if the, you know, natural elements of Pandora can affect the human genealogy to make people more adaptable to live on this planet, which is such a cool idea. I think there's like a whole other.
They do nothing with it.
That seems like that could have been a bigger part of the movie, but this movie just has like 8 or 9 different characters that it has to like continue. This movie really feels like him kind of like, all right, I don't know if I'll be able to make another one of these, just because of like these movies take so long to make, and James Cameron, like, God bless him,
71
like,
years old.
Yeah, he seems like he's doing great, but like he's 71 years old. Like it's conceivable he would be in like his mid 80s when he would release like another one. But so this one is just kind of like, there's nothing really new here. It just sort of feels like him being like, I need to tie up all of these various plot threads with all of these various characters that I've sort of introduced in this movie and kind of like bring this story to a somewhat close.
Well, that was going to be my big sort of closing question. So I think he sort of took it here. Is like, for, if all the Avatar we got was the end of Avatar 2, there would be so much, so many plot threads disconnected, just sort of ending on a cliffhanger. If Avatar that opens this weekend is the end of our time on Pandora, are we leaving on what feels like a closing note? Or does it feel like there's still okay?
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
These movies don't really, I think, have like cliffhangers in the way that like a Marvel movie does. Like the second one, I think, like even if you just watch the second one, like you could see an like A to B arc of that movie, know, that's totally separate from the other two. This one is just sort of like there's a lot of mythology stuff that I set up and character dynamics I set up in the last movie, and I also introduced to you way more characters, in just the Sully family, and I want to give them all arcs as well. And so it just becomes like a really long movie that really is like, for as breathtaking as it is to like take in, it is him like, okay, now I have to put away all the items that I bought at the grocery store. I have to put them away in the kitchen and try not to make a mess by the end.
This would have been a way better movie if it had been a 8-episode Netflix series or something like that. The other thing I want to say about James Cameron that I think is unfortunate about this film, because this is such a visually arresting film. I remember seeing an interview with him many, many years ago where he said that he quite often would write his movies backwards. He would have a dream, he would have a vision, he would see something in his mind, and he would go, wow, that would look incredible. Now I need to write a movie that gets to that point, because that is clearly my climax. And with Terminator, it was the moment that the all steel, the metallic body Terminator rises out of the fire and is chasing Linda Hamilton. With Aliens, it was the moment where Sigourney Weaver is in that forklifter body, giant robot machine, and she's fighting the alien queen. In Titanic, it was the image of Leo looking down as the Titanic goes into the water and he's on the bow. These were all things that Cameron saw and pictured and said, I need to write a movie that gets me to that point. To me, there is nothing iconic. There is nothing like, boom, that is the image from the end of this film, from anywhere in this film. It was a visually immersive experience.
I kind of agree with that.
Like Jesse, when I look back on this film, I'm like, it all kind of runs together a little bit, and there's certainly nothing that I go,
and I think
wow,
that
also
also gets to the point of like, there's nothing in this movie like the first time you see the first Avatar movie, the experience of seeing the first Avatar movie, which is also kind of like, I thought what was good about the second one, like, he was like, I'm going to take you to a totally different part of this world. And so you have that same experience of you're just sort of like luxuriating in it, and your eyes are just sort of darting all over the screen, and you're soaking it all in.
In the water and underwater was that in the second film.
Right. And and that created, I think, like images that were just sort of like, I've never seen anything like that. And that, Cameron just has this unbelievable ability to just like put things up on screen that just like, they make you gasp, they take your breath away. And I do kind of agree with you, Jason, of like, there's not, because this movie is like so much so, except for, I would say, I guess the new villains of the movie, or new co-villains of the movie, which are the ash volcano Na'vi, who are basically like, savagely evil, and like they live in this dead part of the world, and so they basically just have to rape and pillage everyone.
way better movie if we just gotten rid of the human antagonists and just dealt with them. It would have been a way better movie.
I kind of wonder if maybe we had wrapped up the human thing in the last movie, and which I don't know. Then again, Stephen Lang is really just sort of like he's feasting in this movie.
You could have kept. I mean, look, I don't want to get into. Hey, let's rewrite the movie.
Let's create a hypothetical. Right.
There are ways you could have kept him around. Maybe kept the wreckage of some of the human stuff around, because that's kind of a little bit of a driving point here. And I think you would have. First of all, you could have made the movie maybe 2.5 or 2 hours. Wouldn't that have been nice? And you may have. I think you would have had a better film.
Yeah, it's just like, even though there's all those new Na'vi people, like we're still visiting like similar locations and similar worlds to what we saw. So I agree with you that I didn't leave this movie with one sequence that was just sort of like, oh wow, I can't believe I've never seen anything like this in a movie.
All right, well, let me put on, switch over to the English teacher part of my brain where everything is a metaphor. And so could we argue, he says pretentiously, are the Avatar films sort of representative of our modern culture? That these films represent who we are as an audience, as moviegoers, because they come out, they make $2 billion, and we go, ooh, ah, and then a month later, gone. And we've been saying
what
this.
What is this take? What?
We've been saying this since the first movie, right?
This since like 2010.
But that's exact. But like, they make a ton of money.
Hold on. I'm trying to understand this. All right, the first Avatar wasn't gone.
I would argue the second one wasn't even like, the second one kind of almost disproved this point of like people saying like, well, everyone forgot about Avatar, no one's interested in it. And then it's like, yeah, you know what people love? Avatar. It's like, just because there's not like memes of Avatar going around the internet, like there's a whole Disneyland park of it.
Well, that's what I was going to ask.
Awesome.
Is like,
by the way, the Disneyland park is amazing.
Okay, I haven't been back since they added it.
Yeah, the ride is better than either of the other two movies I've seen, it's also
hard
5 minutes long. But I guess that's what I'm saying is like, they are these huge cultural behemoths in the sense that they will be with us forever when we are looking at the films that the technology has gone on to inspire / enable. They will be with us forever as far as when you look at the top 10 highest grossing movies of all time. They're probably not moving from there anytime soon. So they are these sort of cultural linchpins in that way. Is there something to be said or studied or pondered about the fact that they are a part of us in that way, but we don't talk about them the way that we talked about, let's say, the Marvel movies, or, not to even put those on the same plane, I get it, but, or even something like a Barbie movie or an Oppenheimer, which also make tons of money, but also inspire these conversations once you get out of the theater as well. Does that make sense?
You have hit such a wonderful topic that I want to talk about, because I want to know why that is. It's not like these movies are like empty of ideas. I was like chatting with another friend of mine today, and he was like, these movies don't have any ideas in them. They're empty. I'm like, are you smoking crack? These movies have so many ideas about like our relationship to the natural world and about
aren't these ideas that we've seen? Aren't these ideas that we've heard a bunch in other films? Like, we haven't heard anything new in these films.
I think
he's
maybe
not bringing new perspectives.
I mean, is that a requirement? I didn't know that was a requirement.
The thing that I think makes the Avatar experience, and to me is like the core of the Avatar project, is also the thing that kind of, I think, hurts it, because you can only truly experience Avatar in a theater. in
100%.
3D. The part of the magic of Avatar is James Cameron is using the highest of is basically inventing new technology to basically give you an experience where you're like, I want to reach out, touch, feel, and be inside this natural world that, when we think about it, is really not that much different than our own natural world. The animals even kind of look like our own animals, and he wants to make you feel that love and connection to this natural world, and feel so enraged by the rape and pillaging of this natural world and the expanse of the military industrial complex, that you as an audience member are like, I hope these giant blue kitty cats kill every one of these human motherfuckers and send them packing back to their planet. This is basically an empathy, the like highest form of technology used for like an empathy machine to make you empathize with the non-human world and resist the expanse of human technology, which James Cameron himself, that is also the war at the heart of James Cameron is, like I said, he's a guy who he loves the sea, but you know what James Cameron also really loves? James Cameron loves guns. And that's
James Cameron also loves sitting on the boards of AI companies that use tons of our natural resources to make little fake cat videos.
Yeah.
Right, so I was gonna say I got two things. First one is sort of in keeping with what Jesse was talking about. I think, Josh, if there is a reason that these films don't feel like they last, Jesse hit on the major point of it, which is like rewatching them. It just isn't the same experience as being in the theater. But part and parcel with that, I think these movies are an experience more than a story. Now, I'm not saying the first movie has a very, very good story, but just at its heart,
I would argue that I think I joked with you yesterday. The second one's story, if you really think about it, is basically one battle after another. Like the story of political revolutionaries who have to go into hiding and like a crazed military sociopath who's hunting them down.
Well, but the first one, how many jokes have there been about like dances with Smurfs? You know, like it's they're ideas that we've recycled a zillion times, you know.
But my point is they are not these deeply connected stories that you connect to, that you're like, I'm desperate to see what happens next. It is more about experiencing the world. Like with the Marvel films, you were like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen to these characters next. How are they going to resolve this thing next? What's, you know,
it was more like a TV show, like what's going to happen to so and so. How is this going to connect to a thing that I'm going to see in like 2 more movies or 2 more episodes?
Tune in next week. Yeah,
right, exactly. Whereas the Avatar movies are about, I'm going to Pandora. Nothing wrong with that. That's great. But in terms of lasting culturally and me being able to re-experiencing it and discuss it and all this other kind of stuff, it's a little bit diminished from I'm experiencing a story and I'm invested in characters.
Well, I will say that you know, as while I was at my daughter's football game last night that didn't get started in Atlanta until 9:30. So as reviews started,
call him out.
Cheerleading.
He was cheering, yeah. So you know, I think your immediate out of the theater response was, after 3 hours on Pandora, I have a headache.
Yeah.
I did. I had a pleasant time. I enjoyed my visit to Pandora. I just sort of walked out being like, oh, okay. That kind of felt like a cleanup job as opposed to like a let's go explore more of the thing that was so exciting about the first 2 was it, you know, this James Cameron being like, let me take you into my imagination, and this just sort of being like, well, I've set all this stuff up in the previous 2 movies. We can't just like leave it hanging. Now we need a real, like, we gotta resolve some conflict.
When part of me wonders if go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say, if you tell me that James Cameron's next film is Avatar 4, I'm gonna be like, ugh.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do you
think he'll do that next?
If you tell me his next film is anything else, I'm super excited. That's basically where I am right now.
And part of me wonders, like Jesse was alluding to, I think it was Jesse, alluding to recent Jim Cameron interviews saying, like, I think I'm done on Pandora. He's always been a savvy businessman. He's always kind of had his finger on the pulse of. Does he think that even he's sensing maybe some Avatar fatigue a little bit? Because if you look at, I just had, as we all know, Rotten Tomatoes is the barometer of critical thought. We know it's the be all end all. But if you look, it's sitting right on 70% right now, which is right now the lowest rated Avatar movie. But if you look at projections, it is still set to make between $340 and $380 million worldwide opening weekend. So these things are still a money printing machine.
Yeah.
So
I don't think at this point he cares. I mean, money is nice.
Money does not matter to this man.
But I don't think
not
he cares about the money anymore. I don't think in interviews, I kind of admire that he's like, I don't really give a shit what anyone else thinks about my movie. Like,
totally on brand.
Like, I made that the previous two made $2 billion like each. Like, shut up is basically like his attitude.
He's
to people
playing with
like,
house money now.
Right, right. And so, like, he's said, like, I have more scripts for more Avatar movies, but, like, does he want to take the time to do that? He's talked about, like, I have an idea for another Terminator movie that has nothing to do with Arnold and has more to do with, like, my interests in AI. He has, he's talked about that Hiroshima movie, which on one hand kind of sounds like a bad idea to pick up with how he's like described the experience of it. But then again, like, maybe he'll do that. I don't know.
I think even he doesn't know right now. If you look at these interviews, I know he has said officially that the Hiroshima thing is not his next project.
Yeah.
He said
he's
said he
floated
announced
around
it, but
so many things of just sort of like, I think he's kind of just like whatever my interest is at the moment.
And he's also very blunt about his motives. He said, I just had to make sure that I announced it so that my friend could sell some books. He's like, I do own the rights and we will do something with it. But, I just had to make sure that there was like attention on this book. So he's still, got some P.T. Barnum in him at his heart. He is a showman. He is a huckster. But, he's good at his job. So I guess we'll see what happens.
The number 1, number 3, and number 4 movies of all time have him as writer and director.
Yeah.
There may be no one in Hollywood, not maybe, I'm just gonna say, there's no one in Hollywood who makes hits the way James Cameron does.
No one can do what he does.
Yep.
No one can do what he do, man.
Other than Spielberg, he is maybe like the great blockbuster filmmaker of, certainly my lifetime since I've been crawling around this planet. But,
The only reason you said other than Spielberg is because Spielberg has done more. Spielberg has made more movies. Cameron's filmography actually is kind of small, given how long he is.
I have a tier list here for our listeners of that can give them an idea on where Fire and Ash falls into Cameron filmography, and then you guys can chew me out for where. So at the very top we have the God tier. 3, I think, pretty perfect movies: Aliens, Terminator 2, and Titanic.
Okay.
Then
we have wait. You're not putting the original Terminator in God tier, really?
No.
You've lost your mind.
No.
Yeah.
The first Terminator belongs in B tier, which alongside Avatar 1 and Avatar 2. These are great movies. They are among the best blockbusters ever made. But are they? Are they as good as blockbuster filmmaking can get? There are parts of the first Terminator movie that I think have kind of like aged a little bit.
This is sort of a Venn diagram of like you have Aliens people and you have Terminator 2 people, where I don't think anybody's going to argue that any of those films are bad. But I think people definitely have their preferences. And I'm a Terminator 1 guy, even though Terminator 2 is incredible.
Dang, you're crazy if you think Terminator 1 is as good as Terminator 2. Then
no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's better.
Well, that is crazy. That's like smoking crack saying it's better than Terminator 2.
I'll be back to this conversation.
Okay. Then I'm gonna put Fire and Ash in kind of the C tier, alongside like The Abyss or True Lies, where it's like there
True
there
Lies
are
is B tier.
faults. There are
You've got
faults
True
in
Lies
this
too low.
movie. I don't know, Jason. True Lies is pretty racist at the end of the day, and what that movie does to Jamie Lee Curtis.
And
is...
Avatar is not.
No, Avatar is about finding common ground with your fellow man. Is about
No,
loving the whales.
We
and
must-
the people.
Avatar is nothing but indigenous people stereotypes put on blue people.
We need to evaluate these movies in the era that they are in. You are absolutely right. Looking at True Lies today, you're like, okay, we're just going to say everybody with brown skin, bad people, and that is wrong, and it is not where we are as a society today. But when True Lies was made, True Lies was incredible. It should be. Now,
Well, in that case, when True Lies was made, it was like treating Jamie Lee Curtis. That character is like so horribly written. The Jamie Lee Curtis character.
Jamie Lee Curtis's
that is
character
like
is
an appallingly
incredible
written
in that
character.
film.
She's
She's
fun.
phenomenal in that movie.
When Jamie Lee Curtis walks down that hallway in the motel and slicks back her hair and pulls her dress apart and transforms into one of the most beautiful, most desirable women on the planet, that is great stuff, my friend.
I'm just saying that movie basically proposes that Jamie Lee Curtis is like the dumbest woman on the planet. That's like, yeah, there's no way my husband's a spy.
Your father's probably a spy and you don't even know it, man.
Joke's on you.
Right, so
he is.
so and also I forgot, we do know what his next project is. It comes out next year, and it is Billie Eilish. It's Billie Eilish's 3D concert movie. Billie Eilish got James Cameron to direct her concert film.
That really excites me that James Cameron is a Billie Eilish fan.
And if anybody can change the dynamic of the concert film and do some cool 3D things, it's James Cameron. So
I'm just imagining him like shooting Zoe Saldana and Sam Worthington on a soundstage, and just he's cranking Bad Guy on his on his AirPods.
All I know is if Billie Eilish comes out and she's 10 foot tall and blue, I'm out. I'm walking out.
I'm actually eager to see what he does. You know, he wouldn't have done it unless he had an idea to do something unusual.
That's what I said. He's going to do something really cool with it, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. All right. With that, we're going to wrap it up here on this week's edition of the Movie Joust. For Christmas next week, we're going to take the week off, but we'll be back soon after. We're going to discuss, with full spoilers, all about Marty Supreme, all about The Housemaid, all about all kinds of interesting films coming out over Christmas time. I will tell you, without full spoilers, you need to go see Marty Supreme.
It is really, really good.
Yeah.
And some of the best things, like, you can't listen to the podcast until you see the movie, because we're going to talk about some of the best parts of the movie, or you got to spoil it. So
exactly. Until then, Merry Christmas from Jason, Josh, and Jesse. We'll see you at the movies.